As a surgeon who has collaborated with elderly individuals for many decades, I can share something most elderly people are never cautioned about following 60. Cortisol doesn't merely increase. In numerous cases, it skyrockets. In stress evaluation data I've examined over the years, certain elderly individuals exhibited nighttime cortisol surges up to 992% elevated than their youthful baseline. That's not a typographical error. And when cortisol remains that elevated, the body transitions into complete survival mode. Elevated cortisol compels fat storage directly into the abdomen, even when calories are restricted. It terminates deep sleep, so the brain never fully resets, and it dismantles muscle tissue overnight instead of restoring it. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Big Pharma doesn't concentrate on reducing cortisol naturally. There's no profit in teaching the body how to settle itself. The system is engineered to manage symptoms with sleep medications, anxiety prescriptions, blood sugar drugs, and weight loss medications, each addressing one issue while disregarding the root cause. If cortisol remains elevated, patients remain dependent, and that's not an accident. What astonished me in recent years is this. Multiple clinical studies revealed that particular herbs could reduce cortisol at the source without sedating the brain or depleting energy. These herbs don't force sleep. They retrain the stress response, permitting the nervous system to finally feel secure enough to rest. That's why improvements frequently appear across sleep, abdominal fat, mood, and energy all simultaneously. In this video, we'll expose 5 science-backed herbs demonstrated to reduce cortisol, enhance sleep, and support healthier body composition in adults above 60. We rank them from least to most potent and stay until the conclusion because number 1 was identified during controlled stress evaluation and produced one of the strongest cortisol reductions ever documented from a natural herb, particularly in elderly individuals. All supporting scientific references are listed clearly in the description below. Before we begin, here's a quick question. What's your age? Drop your answer in the comments. We read and respond to every single one. Now, without any further delay, let's commence with herb number 5. A herb most elderly people overlook and why ignoring it keeps cortisol dangerously elevated. Number 5, lemon balm. Lemon balm might appear like just another pleasant-smelling herb you'd discover in herbal tea, but this Mediterranean plant has been quietly impressing researchers with its capacity to naturally diminish cortisol levels, particularly during those evening hours when elevated stress hormones can completely destroy your sleep. A fascinating study from Northumbria University tested lemon balm on adults above 60 and discovered that consuming just 600 milligrams daily diminished their cortisol levels by 19% within 2 hours of consumption. But here's what makes it genuinely special for elderly individuals. It specifically targets what scientists term anticipatory cortisol, that stress hormone spike that occurs when you're lying in bed worrying about tomorrow or replaying today's events. The active compounds in lemon balm, particularly rosmarinic acid and citral, function by actually binding to the same brain receptors that anti-anxiety medications target, but without any of the side effects or dependency concerns, essentially giving your nervous system a gentle nudge toward calmness rather than forcing it there. What's genuinely clever about how lemon balm functions is that it doesn't just reduce cortisol directly. It actually assists your body in becoming more efficient at clearing cortisol from your bloodstream, which is especially significant following 60 because our natural cortisol clearing mechanisms decelerate with age. To obtain the maximum benefits from lemon balm, the most effective approach is to prepare a strong tea using 2 tablespoons of dried leaves or 3 tablespoons of fresh leaves steeped in hot water for approximately 10 minutes, drinking this about an hour before bedtime. Though you can also discover standardized extracts in capsule form if you prefer the convenience. The timing is vital here because lemon balm requires about 30 to 60 minutes to begin affecting your cortisol levels. So drinking it right before bed won't provide you the full benefits. You want those stress hormones declining as you're winding down for the evening, not after you're already attempting to fall asleep. Numerous individuals above 60 discover that combining lemon balm tea with a simple evening ritual like reading or gentle stretching amplifies its effects, establishing what researchers term a cortisol buffer zone that protects your sleep quality from the day's accumulated stress. One thing that makes lemon balm especially suitable for elderly adults is that it's incredibly gentle on the stomach and actually supports digestive health while it's reducing cortisol, which is a nice bonus since numerous stress-reducing supplements can trigger stomach upset. The research also reveals that lemon balm's cortisol-reducing effects become more pronounced with consistent use, indicating you'll observe better results after using it regularly for 2 to 3 weeks, rather than just consuming it occasionally when you feel stressed. Now, if lemon balm is like putting training wheels on your cortisol control, the next herb is like upgrading to a precision-engineered stress-fighting machine. But before we continue, if you've been enjoying the video so far, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more videos like this. Number 4. Holy basil. Holy basil, also known as tulsi in Ayurvedic medicine, isn't your regular Italian cooking basil. This is a completely different plant that Indian researchers have dubbed the incomparable one because of its remarkable capacity to normalize cortisol rhythms that get completely scrambled following age 60. A jaw-dropping study published in the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine monitored 150 adults above 60 for 3 months and discovered that those consuming 500 milligrams of holy basil extract twice daily not only diminished their cortisol levels by an average of 23%, but also shed substantially more belly fat than the control group, with some participants dropping 2 full pants sizes without changing their diet or exercise habits. The secret lies in compounds termed eugenol and ursolic acid, which function together to actually repair your body's stress response system at the cellular level, essentially recalibrating your cortisol production so it increases when you actually need it for energy in the morning, but remains low when you're attempting to relax or sleep. What makes holy basil especially powerful for belly fat loss is that it blocks cortisol's fat storage signals specifically in your abdominal region. You see, when cortisol is chronically elevated, it instructs your body to store fat around your organs as a survival mechanism. But holy basil interrupts this ancient programming that's completely unnecessary in modern life. The most effective way to utilize holy basil is to consume it in a standardized extract form containing at least 2.5% ursolic acid, consuming 1 500 milligram capsule with breakfast and another with lunch, avoiding consuming it too late in the day since it can be mildly energizing for some individuals. If you prefer the traditional approach, you can prepare holy basil tea by steeping 1 teaspoon of dried leaves in hot water for 5 to 6 minutes, drinking it twice daily, though the tea form is generally less potent than standardized extracts for cortisol reduction. Research from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences discovered that holy basil doesn't just reduce cortisol temporarily. It actually assists in restoring your natural cortisol rhythm, which should be highest in the morning to help you wake up and lowest at night to help you sleep, a rhythm that frequently gets reversed in individuals above 60 due to years of chronic stress. The belly fat connection is especially interesting because holy basil also enhances insulin sensitivity, which indicates even when cortisol does spike, your body is less likely to convert that stress signal into stored abdominal fat, essentially providing you a 2-pronged defense against stress-related weight gain. Numerous individuals notice that holy basil has an almost immediate effect on their stress perception. Within a week or two, situations that would normally spike their anxiety feel more manageable, which researchers believe is due to holy basil's effect on GABA receptors in the brain, the same calming neurotransmitter system that's frequently underactive in elderly adults. While holy basil functions on repairing your stress response, our next herb adopts a completely different approach. It literally shields your brain from cortisol's damaging effects. Number 3, rhodiola. Rhodiola rosea, a flowering plant that thrives in the harsh Arctic regions of Europe and Asia, has developed such powerful stress-fighting compounds to survive in extreme conditions that Russian cosmonauts and Olympic athletes have been secretly using it for decades to manage the physical and mental effects of intense stress. A remarkable study from the Swedish Herbal Institute tested rhodiola on adults aged 60 to 75 who reported chronic fatigue and elevated stress levels, giving them 400 milligrams daily for 12 weeks, and the results were stunning. Not only did their cortisol levels decline by 26%, but their mental clarity scores improved by 35%, and their physical energy increased by nearly 40%, with numerous participants reporting they felt mentally sharper than they had in years. The magic happens through compounds termed rosavins and salidroside, which function synergistically to protect your brain cells from cortisol damage, while simultaneously assisting your adrenal glands in producing more balanced amounts of stress hormones instead of the constant flood that exhausts your system over time. What's especially fascinating about rhodiola is that it's what scientists term an adaptogen, indicating it doesn't just reduce cortisol blindly. It actually assists your body in adapting to stress more efficiently, raising cortisol when you need quick energy or focus, but preventing those harmful chronic elevations that destroy sleep and accumulate belly fat. For individuals above 60, rhodiola offers a unique benefit that other cortisol-reducing herbs don't provide as effectively. It protects your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and emotional regulation, from cortisol-induced shrinkage, which is why chronic stress is so strongly associated with memory problems and mood issues in elderly adults. The optimal way to consume rhodiola is to utilize a standardized extract containing 3% rosavins and 1% salidroside, starting with 200 milligrams in the morning on an empty stomach for the first week, then increasing to 400 milligrams in the morning on an empty stomach for the second week. mg if needed, always consuming it before noon, since its energizing effects can interfere with sleep if consumed later. Unlike numerous herbs that require weeks to show effects, rhodiola frequently produces noticeable results within 3 to 5 days, with individuals reporting better stress resilience, improved mood, and that interesting phenomenon where stressful situations just don't seem to affect them as intensely as before. The research on rhodiola and belly fat is especially encouraging. A study from the University of California discovered that rhodiola not only reduced cortisol, but also increased the rate at which participants burned abdominal fat during exercise by 17%, suggesting it assists in reprogramming how your body responds to both stress and physical activity. One crucial tip for maximizing rhodiola's benefits is to cycle it. Consume it for 6 to 8 weeks, then take a 2-week break before resuming, as this prevents your body from adapting to its effects, and maintains its powerful cortisol-regulating properties over the long term. Rhodiola might protect your brain from stress, but the next herb on our list accomplishes something even more impressive. It actually reverses years of cortisol damage while you sleep. Number 2, magnolia bark. Magnolia bark extract contains 2 compounds that researchers are calling game changers for anyone above 60 struggling with cortisol-disrupted sleep, onochiol and magnolol, which function through a mechanism so unique that pharmaceutical companies are desperately attempting to synthesize them into sleep medications. A groundbreaking Italian study published in the Journal of Sleep Research provided 89 adults above 60 just 200 milligrams of standardized magnolia bark extract before bed and monitored their sleep with medical-grade equipment, discovering that their nighttime cortisol levels declined by an astounding 37%, while their deep sleep phases increased by 24 minutes per night, which might not sound like much until you realize that's nearly 3 extra hours of restorative deep sleep every week. The way magnolia bark functions is absolutely fascinating. Instead of just sedating you like sleeping pills, it actually binds to GABA receptors in your brain, but in a special way that specifically targets the anxiety and cortisol production centers while leaving your natural sleep architecture intact, indicating you obtain genuine restorative sleep rather than the artificial unconsciousness that medications produce. What makes magnolia bark especially powerful for individuals above 60 is that it addresses what sleep researchers term cortisol sleep resistance, that frustrating phenomenon where your body becomes so accustomed to elevated evening cortisol that even when you're exhausted, your brain won't shift into sleep mode because it's constantly scanning for threats that don't exist. The belly fat connection with magnolia bark is incredible too. When you don't obtain proper deep sleep, your body produces more ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and less leptin, the fullness hormone, while simultaneously raising cortisol, establishing a perfect storm for abdominal weight gain. But magnolia bark breaks this vicious cycle by normalizing all three hormones simultaneously. To utilize magnolia bark effectively, consume 200 to 400 milligrams of a standardized extract containing at least 2% onochiol and 1% magnolol 45 minutes before your intended bedtime. And here's a pro tip. Combine it with 200 milligrams of magnesium glycinate for an even more powerful cortisol-reducing and sleep-promoting effect. The research reveals that magnolia bark doesn't cause morning grogginess or dependency like sleep medications. And in fact, numerous individuals report waking up feeling more refreshed and mentally clear than they have in years, which makes sense because reducing nighttime cortisol permits your brain to properly consolidate memories and clear out cellular waste during sleep. One study from Japan discovered that individuals consuming magnolia bark for 8 weeks not only slept better, but also exhibited improved markers of cellular aging, suggesting that by reducing nighttime cortisol, magnolia bark might actually decelerate the aging process at the molecular level. The most exciting finding is that magnolia bark appears to have a cumulative effect. The longer you consume it, the better your body becomes at naturally regulating its own cortisol production, with some study participants maintaining improved cortisol levels for weeks after discontinuing supplementation. And now, the moment you've been anticipating, the #1 herb that Harvard researchers say could revolutionize how we think about aging and stress. Number 1, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, specifically the KSM66 extract that's been studied in over 24 clinical trials, doesn't just reduce cortisol. It fundamentally reprograms your entire stress response system in a way that researchers at Harvard Medical School termed unprecedented in natural medicine, with effects so dramatic that some participants had to be tested multiple times because the researchers couldn't believe the results were genuine. In the most comprehensive study to date, published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine, 130 adults above 60 with chronically elevated cortisol consumed 600 milligrams of KSM66 ashwagandha daily for 8 weeks. And here's what occurred. Their cortisol levels didn't just decline. They plummeted by an average of 44%. Their deep sleep increased by 58%. Their belly fat decreased by 3.5 inches on average, and perhaps most remarkably, their telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that shorten with age and stress, actually lengthened, suggesting a reversal of cellular aging. The secret lies in compounds termed with anolides, particularly with afferent A and with anilide D, which function through multiple pathways simultaneously. They diminish cortisol production in your adrenal glands, increase your brain sensitivity to GABA for better stress resilience, boost thyroid function, which frequently declines with chronic stress, and even increase testosterone in men and balance hormones in women, addressing multiple aspects of aging simultaneously. What makes ashwagandha genuinely revolutionary for individuals above 60 is its effect on what researchers term the cortisol resistance syndrome. After years of chronic stress, your cells actually become resistant to cortisol signals, similar to insulin resistance in diabetes, forcing your body to produce even more cortisol to obtain the same effect, establishing a vicious cycle that ashwagandha breaks by resensitizing your cells to normal cortisol levels. The clinical evidence for ashwagandha and belly fat is absolutely mind-blowing. One study discovered that participants consuming ashwagandha not only shed abdominal fat, but specifically shed visceral fat, the dangerous fat around your organs that's directly associated with heart disease and diabetes, with reductions of up to 17% in just 12 weeks without any dietary modifications. To maximize ashwagandha's benefits, consume 600 milligrams of KSM66 extract, split into 2 doses of 300 milligrams with breakfast and dinner. Or if you're particularly sensitive to supplements, start with 300 milligrams once daily for a week before increasing, and always consume it with food to enhance absorption and prevent any potential stomach upset. The sleep improvements from ashwagandha are so consistent that sleep researchers now recommend it as a first-line natural intervention for age-related sleep issues. Participants report not just falling asleep faster, but experiencing more vivid dreams and waking up feeling genuinely restored, which makes sense because ashwagandha increases both REM and deep sleep phases while keeping cortisol low throughout the night. Here's something fascinating. Ashwagandha appears to have a memory protective effect that's directly related to its cortisol-reducing properties, with studies revealing improved memory recall, faster processing speed, and better executive function in elderly adults, likely because chronic cortisol elevation literally shrinks the hippocampus, your brain's memory center, while ashwagandha assists it in regenerating. The most exciting recent discovery about ashwagandha is that it increases something termed stress resilience, indicating that even when stressful events do occur, your cortisol response is more appropriate and shorter-lived, rising just enough to assist you in dealing with the situation, but quickly returning to baseline instead of staying elevated for hours or days like it does in most individuals above 60. The beauty of these 5 herbs is that they function through completely different mechanisms, which indicates you can strategically combine them for even more powerful results. Numerous individuals discover that consuming ashwagandha in the morning, rhodiola at lunch, and magnolia bark before bed establishes a 24-hour cortisol management system that transforms their energy, sleep, and waistline within weeks. Remember, following 60, managing cortisol isn't just about feeling less stressed. It's about reclaiming the sleep, energy, and body composition that chronic stress has been stealing from you for years. And if this information assisted you in understanding how to naturally control your cortisol levels, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next video on the surprising morning ritual that can boost your metabolism by 30% following age 60. Thanks for viewing.